Welcome into the Bears Squad Show. I'm Joe George, post-game host, and Jake Moody was the hero the Bears needed.
I'm Adam Sager. Man, I need my blood pressure checked after that game.
I'm Lauren Cox, and nice to see DeAndre Swift join the team already this point in the season.
Bear down, Chicago. It's the Bears Squad. Everything Chicago Bears, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Windy City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From Soldier Field to the next great chapter, the Bears Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Bears Squad Show here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. Joe George, Adam Sager, Lauren Cox here with you as the Bears get redemption. They get the victory. Jake Moody, the hero in the end, as the Bears pull out the W over the Washington Commanders. There's a lot to get to from this game. We'll talk about Moody, the end sequence of the game there, DeAndre Swift being fantastic for the Bears. All the mistakes, the Bears maybe won't ignore those because there was plenty of them. Same with the referees in this game. We'll talk about Caleb Williams' performance as well. But Lauren, we'll start with you. Just as the Bears get the ball back, what's your feeling and from when they get the ball to the very end there?
You know, it's tricky because I find myself buying in and feeling like, hey, we've seen Caleb Williams individually do it enough, driving this team down and putting them in a position to win. And when he was doing it last year, it would seem like it was Matt Eberflus decisions or other decisions around him on the team that would keep them from winning these games. But like we've seen him do it a couple times this year and actually finish those games as victories. And we saw him put them in position to win last season, where it's like now you get the ball with a couple minutes left in Caleb Williams' hands. You feel like I trust that he's going to get them in position to attempt that Jake Moody field goal. It's the Jake Moody field goal that I didn't trust until it went through the uprights.
Yep. Adam?
I was watching that like this. I mean, I had literally had my notebook like covering my eye because I'm a Michigan guy. I love Jake Moody, but the way he's been in the NFL, so sporadic, and then seeing the low kick on the block, I was worried. But my favorite thing about the final drive was the fact that it didn't have to be on all of Caleb's shoulders because the run game had been so good all night long, and it continued in that final drive with some big runs. And I mean, you could tell people on Twitter, Bears fans were freaking out when they came out and ran the ball twice to open that drive, and they're sitting at 3rd and 5. And credit to Caleb, he found Loveland on a nice, just quick, easy zone read by Loveland, sits down, makes the catch, and then Swift does the rest until they set up Moody for the game winner. So just the fact they were able to rely on that run game throughout the entire game, but especially on that last drive, helps Caleb in those moments.
Yeah, I think I've shared this story before, but my first ever Bears postcast show was for the Washington game last year. So I was feeling a little angsty there at the end. But to me, this is ultimately like that last drive. This is the difference between Ben Johnson and the previous regime. Like, it just feels like he has a better plan in place for these moments, not just for getting Caleb Williams set up for success, but the whole team. There's just such a different level of confidence I think that we all should have as Bears fans already, because this is a guaranteed loss if Matt Eberflus is still the head coach of the Bears. There's no way that they march down the field there and get the win. But DeAndre Swift, to your point, Adam, was fantastic in this game. I mean, Lauren, I know we've talked about him a ton, but what are just your overall thoughts on what we saw from Swift, from the 55-yard touchdown reception to all the big gains that he had in this one?
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, he just looked faster. And I know that's not great analysis, but like he was just fast. And people were pointing out that cover the Commanders that their defense has been generally slow all season. And so I think that's part of why he looked fast. But even on handoffs, just like more decisive as a ball carrier, where I think instead of like looking for the perfect block or the perfect lane to open up, he's just saying, hey, there's an inch, I'm going to take it. And it felt like maybe the bye week was his opportunity to kind of go back through some of his previous runs and say, oh yeah, maybe I could just be a little bit more decisive there. And remember that I can outrun slower defenders and can make guys miss in space. But I do also think the offensive line run blocked better as a whole. It's not just Theo Benedett being an upgrade over Braxton Jones in that department, but Jonah Jackson blocking better, Drew Dahlman blocking better, Darnell Wright run blocking better. Like it felt like they were able to find a little bit more of a ground game identity in this game than we had seen really in the first 4 all season.
I don't remember which game it was, but remember there's a game, I think it was their first win. Remember when Swift was running hard, but it was really only for like 2 drives in a row? And we're like, oh, if we could just see that. He did it all night long. Like every time he got the ball, even if he was hit at the line of scrimmage and only picked up a yard, he was still falling forward. He was hitting the hole hard. It was all around great game for DeAndre Swift. And if they can get that moving forward, like you said, with the O-line, with Theo Benedict at left tackle now, and they can continue to build off this, I mean, the offense can take another big step forward because this will allow Caleb to feel more comfortable and not feel like he has to, try and make these crazy throws every single time he escapes the pocket. So it's a good first step. Now we just need to continue to see it week in, week out, and it continue to get better.
Yeah, I think Lauren, your point too about Swift, it's just there's a point of attack and he attacked it. It almost seems so simple for the way that he ran the ball in this game, but it's something that he hasn't done very often. Maybe we would occasionally see it once or twice a game and he would have big carries, but the entire game is just like he followed the open hole that was there and is where he was supposed to go. And to your point, like the offensive line, it looked totally different this week. I mean, they were run blocking so well in this game. This is one thing I know we talked about on the Tuesday show this last week is coming out of the bye week. What is the run game going to look like? And hopefully this is just a sign of things to come, because while Caleb wasn't great, and we'll talk about him, later in the show, he had some missed opportunities. If you can give Caleb Williams this run game more often in the season, doesn't have to be this good every single week, but just sometimes this threat, it just adds to what this offense can be. So it's by far, I mean, Swift is the MVP of this game. I guess Moody can be right up there too for making all the field goals he did, but the offense overall, I thought just looked much better coming out of the bye, specifically in the run game there.
It's just striking, like how much better, like how night and day it is, right? It's not just like, oh, they got back to 4 yards per carry and it was like a respectable ground game performance, but like legitimately 7.7 yards per carry. And it wasn't just like one, the 55-yarder came on a passing play, but like his longest run was 19. And those chunks matter a lot, but like it wasn't 80 yards on one play and then 3 yards on every other play. Like it was consistent 4 or 5 yards. And especially, I think, like you said, Adam, on that last drive of the game, like they could go to the running game, not just as we're going to keep the clock running by getting 2 yards or maybe get back to line of scrimmage, but like actually moving the chains as a means of offense through the ground game was just like, how did they figure that all out in one bye week? And I imagine some of it is just extra time to prepare for the Commanders. Like we're not going to get this every week, but it really does stand out as like, wow, not only was their running game great, but they held the Commanders running back to under 4 yards per carry, just totally opposite of what we expected.
Yeah, and I just think a lot of this run game, having Darnell right back, I mean, he was a monster out there. I mean, every time they ran to the right, it seemed like it was 7, 8, 9, 10 plus yards on the run. He was really good. And then Joe Tooney. I mean, just you can continue to run behind that guy. And if Theo Benedict can continue to grow as a left tackle, at least this season, and he can depend on Joe Tooney like you can depend on an all-pro veteran like he is, I mean, some good things can really come of this. And I still have my doubts about DeAndre Swift as a full-time running back, but tonight's a good thing to at least see moving forward. And then you can kind of start to gauge him as we get closer to maybe the trade deadline. Maybe you want to make a move for another back, because Roshan finally got a carry. Congrats to him. But Monangai, 7th round pick, you don't want him to be your backup. I don't know how much you really, really trust him, but getting this DeAndre Swift with this offensive line tonight was a good sign. Now, can they continue to build off of it? I think they can.
I do wonder if there's something about Dan Quinn's defense, because his best game last year was against the Washington Commanders in Washington. He averaged over 7 yards per carry in that game. It was his only game over 100 yards rushing all season. And it was like he had stacked up a couple of good running games in the lead up to that against the Rams and the Jaguars. But like in that Commanders game, it was like, all right, like this is the DeAndre Swift we've been looking for, and let's see him turn a corner and be that lead back for the Bears. And then obviously that started a long losing streak that didn't help, but we never really saw him get back to that last season. So now we're seeing it again. And I'm with you, Adam, where it's like, okay, it's great to see, But we need to see it for more than just like one really good game. And you don't want to discount anything from the really good game, but like, let's stack these up before we really start being all in on Swift as the savior for the running game.
The other part of the running game that I think we have to note is, Adam, you pointed out the guys at the offensive line blocking, but man, the only time I felt like Troy Aikman was complimenting the Bears last night was on these runs and pointing out DJ Moore, like a guy that, people have questions about because of his attitude at times. But DJ Moore, like most of this game, I felt like he was either on the sidelines, holding his back or limping. But every single time they were running the ball, DJ Moore is right there, blocking the corners and doing a fantastic job at setting the edge. Like that to me also feels like such a tone change for the Bears. We saw Rome Odunze blocking downfield as well in this game. That's the part of the run game where I'm like, okay, that really feels different. So like your point, Lauren, like, yes, I think we have to wait on Swift, but your wide receivers contributing to the run game in the way they did today, the inside handoffs as well, the DJ Moore and plays we saw, that feels like a totally different Bears offense than we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think, the more we talk about it, if we just had a back that you could just trust, to go 2 series, and then here comes DeAndre Swift. You use Swift as a third down back, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield, pretty damn well. I just think that you're just missing that one piece on offense, it feels like right now, and that's kind of that lead running back, and then you build Swift off that guy. We'll see if they make a move, but yeah, Loveland was blocking well, I thought, tonight when he was in on run plays. I still wish we'd get more from Cole Kmet. I mean, even that one long run where he's downfield and there's a guy right in front of him, like 2 yards, he doesn't touch the guy, and he's the guy that ends up making the tackle. So watching him is frustrating blocking, but other than that, I don't really have any complaints about the run game.
Lauren, what'd you make of, we'll get to more specifically on Caleb a little bit later in the show, but what'd you make of the passing attack in this game for the Bears? Because obviously it was not as efficient or as good as DeAndre Swift in the running game.
Yeah, this felt like a game of a lot of missed opportunities in that regard. And it was like kind of equally spread around in a bunch of different areas. Like, yeah, missed throws from Caleb Williams for sure. And that may even be the biggest of these categories in this game. But then, you get drop passes like the one to Zacchaeus when they were backed up in their own goal line and he had all the space in the world to keep running on it. You had the touchdown ball to Rome Odunze that was negated by penalties, and there were a couple other plays that were negated by penalties that it was all right there for you. And so it was certainly not one individual player, but it was like self-inflicted wounds here and there really negated a lot of what you wanted to do in the passing game. But you can at least be encouraged that like all of the plays were absolutely there to be made. Like from a play calling and Ben Johnson coaching standpoint, open receivers and a quarterback seeing that open receiver and at least knowing to throw the ball to said open receiver, whether it was always on target or not, it shows you that at least like the process is working, even if the results weren't there.
The one throw I had a problem with was the throw. Now I'm going to blank on who he was throwing to. It might've been Kmet on that quick slant where he faked out to the flat and then he just turned and fired, and Sainris still almost got he should have had the interception. It was right down there at the goal line. That's my only throw that I look at and I say like, that was bad. The stuff to Zacchaeus early in the game where the first pass he threw, was kind of high and outside. Zacchaeus sat down and it felt like Caleb thought he would keep going. And then we saw the very next drive, the same play on third down, I think it was, where Zacchaeus sits down and Caleb thinks he's going again and he doesn't go. So I don't know who's at fault there, but that was frustrating to see Zacchaeus on that slant that, Caleb was wide of, but Zacchaeus had he didn't get through that defender at all. I guess what I'm kind of saying here is Zacchaeus he had a terrible game tonight, in my opinion, and we need more Luther Burden. Luther Burden catches that ball that Zacchaeus dropped from the goal line. That's a touchdown. Because, you just see it's all green.
He's still running to Chicago.
Yes,
honestly, even if Zacchaeus catches that thing, he might have scored.
Yes, he would have scored too. But Luther Burden is dynamic. We can see it in the little bits we're getting. You've got to start using him more and building this kid up fast because he's got the talent to be a legit wide receiver in this NFL.
Yeah, I really like that we saw. You're muted, Lauren.
I was going to say, I think we saw more of Luther Burden compared to the
did.
Certainly,
yes.
I want to see even more, but it felt like more of him, and it felt like more Kyle Monangai too. I don't know
how it did.
snap count numbers aren't fully out yet, and it ended up being 5 carries, but it felt like he was more involved. He had the screen pass that was blocked really well too, and of course getting Roshan Johnson involved. Like they seemed to, despite DeAndre Swift having a good game, like be intentional about, hey, let's get some other guys more involved that we hadn't seen as much earlier in the season.
Yeah, I think that's good though. Like DeAndre Swift, you probably like whatever. You don't want him to be the lead back all the time. You got to split the carries. And I'm honestly, I was shocked when we saw Roshan in there at running back. I kind of chuckled because I know he's someone that we've all discussed either together or separately quite often because he didn't have a carry until tonight's game. I think we're also, kind of your point with Burden there, Adam. We saw a little bit more involvement for Colson Loveland in this game. I still want to see the next step of getting Loveland more involved. Like there's still, we saw moments from this game of him, sitting in the right zones, being solid with the ball in his hands and like moving the chains. I just want to see more of that too. So overall, like I'm satisfied with the passing game performance. We could have asked for a lot more or could have seen a lot more from this team, but I think it was satisfactory is a nice way to put it. All right, we'll take our first break here. When we get back, let's talk about the defense though. Another week, another game in which they force multiple turnovers. How do they perform against Jaden Daniels? How do they do against the run game? We'll get into all of that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Mizzen and Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp but feel stiff, hot, and high maintenance. That's why there is Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've perfected it ever since. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off your purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-I-N.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. Today's show is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, guys, another game in which the defense forces multiple turnovers. Lauren, what's just your overall takeaway to start from what we saw from the Dennis Allen squad in this game?
Yeah, it felt in a lot of ways some similarities to the Raiders game, I guess, except the run defense was better. But just in the sense of like, it felt like the Commanders were getting a lot of what they wanted, and if they didn't turn the ball over, they were going to score. And like the Raiders game, the other team punted one time in the whole game, back-to-back games where every drive either ends with points or a turnover, and that has worked for 2 games now. It doesn't feel like it can work that way forever. Like, you're just not going to be able to get this many turnovers every single week. You might be able to get them for a few more weeks. It's not just going to end tomorrow, but like Jaden Daniels isn't gonna fumble a wet ball in the fourth quarter of every drive. Like, you got gifted a few there too, but at the same time, like, it was enough to get the job done. I mean, 24 points is not a great defensive performance, but it's not a bad defensive performance either. Like, this was a check the boxes and show improvements in some of the areas that you needed to, but still have some work to do.
Yeah, it was tough because you get turnovers on the first 2 drives. Great play by Brisker, bad throw by Jaden Daniels, but he gets the pick and returns it for a nice return. And then you get the forced fumble by Sweat, which is nice. After that, they weren't very good. I mean, they started to put some pressure later in the game with some blitzes, and I thought Brisker played a really nice game overall. But the guys that came back, Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards, they seem to step slow. They seem to like it was their first game that they haven't played in a long time. So that was not the greatest thing to see, but you expect them to continue to get better, more comfortable as the season goes on. But yeah, it was still a lot of rough moments in this game for the defense. And it did feel like Jaden Daniels, when he wasn't throwing the ball to a wide open receiver, he had clear lanes to run, or he was just stepping out of missed tackles. And he's really good at that. Don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic quarterback, especially a running quarterback. But man, that the defense just still does not give you much to go on so far this season.
Yeah, I think it's a great point by Lauren. I don't think the Bears are going to win another game this year in which they have the performance they had the last 2 weeks. If they win another game this year in which they only allow the opposing team to score touchdowns or get turnovers and punt one time, you got to force a couple punts like in a game. Like I feel like that this recipe for victories the last 2 games for the Bears doesn't feel like a sustainable model. So that's the fact that you did win still, like there's still some of that bend but don't break that we see from this team. To me, the biggest one is the miscommunication stuff that's still happening, within the defense, specifically the Luke McCaffrey touchdown. I mean, the broadcast made it seem like it's Nashawn Wright's fault. I think it was, but maybe it could have been Kyler Gordon as well. It's just to have that busted of a coverage is not a good thing to see. I feel like that's just maybe it's Kyler getting back and missed assignments and just a mistake happened on that play. But it was a okay performance by the defense, but it wasn't anything like it's almost the exact opposite of the run game. Like the run game, it's like, okay, this is something to build off of. I don't feel like this game for the defense has much to build off of going forward. It's still kind of status quo from what we saw before the bye week.
It's strange because they did it in a different way. Like I feel like the defense is in the same place, and yet it's like you come in this game and if I had told you that they'd hold the Commanders to 3.6 yards per carry, at least from Crocky Merritt, that their main ball carrier would be under 4 yards per carry, and they'd get a pretty, I don't know if consistent pass rush on Jaden Daniels is too strong, but like they got Daniels under pressure more than I thought they would. They couldn't finish with sacks because he slipped out of so many of them, but like they got a decent amount of pressure at times. Like those were the 2 biggest things that they hadn't been able to do well before. And so there's room for improvement in both those areas still, but like they improved in their 2 biggest weaknesses. And yet it feels like we're still in the same spot defensively. And a lot of that feels penalty based to me. And I agree about Gordon and Edwards, like still not quite back to 100% just yet. And some of it, you have to tip your cap to a top 10 offense on the other side with a good quarterback. And maybe these aren't household names at receiver, but Cliff Kingsbury is pretty good at scheming them open. And when Luke McCaffrey's wide open, doesn't matter if that's you or I back there. Any of us are scoring on that play.
I still can't believe that they cannot find somebody better than Nashawn Wright or McLeod. Like there's got to be somebody better than those 2 guys just sitting on the street that's a free agent or someone you can go pluck from a practice squad. Because these guys, just to be honest, they're brutal. They are brutal out there. Right, yeah, he recovered the fumble. Good for him at the end of the game. Like, that's awesome. But his coverage is terrible. He's going to have another pick 6, I guarantee, because he loves to go for. We saw he almost got one, not a pick 6, but an interception tonight. He broke on the kind of the same play he had the pick 6 against the Vikings. But he's just, him and McLeod are just bad. And you could see soon as Kyler Gordon did go out for a series or 2 there in the 3rd quarter and McLeod came in, and it was, you could just see the difference in the, so even Kyler Gordon not being Kyler Gordon yet was still a major upgrade over McLeod. And so there's still some things that you look at. I thought Montez Sweat played a decent game. I thought he flashed at least more times than not and had a couple back-to-back plays there later in the game with the tip ball, and then he got the pressure on Jaden Daniels, forcing him to throw it away. So good to see him. Actually, Andy had the forced fumble, so good to see him make up for some of his $25 million he's getting.
Yeah, I think that overall, like the defensive line was much better in this game, and that's for Sweat. It's like is Spencer Rattler next week going to be avoiding the sacks that Montez Sweat could have gotten this game? Probably not. Definitely not Joe Flacco when you get him in a couple weeks. But so I think the defensive line, like that is a positive that there was more pressure. What's important too, I think and this is probably more credit to Dennis Allen, is the pressure came at important parts of the game. Like, even though like there was the 3rd and 13, that was the dump off that was converted, like it was because of big pressure and getting to the quarterback that they were in that position to even have a long 3rd down conversion for Washington to have to convert there. So I think that's where it's the positive. It's probably more Dennis Allen, scheming things up in the right moment and getting his guys home. So I consider, of all the things we saw on the defense, the pass rush, I give them a W today, or at least, if we're gonna grade it here, probably give like a B overall in this game.
It was coming from a low bar, which helped
Yes.
make,
Yes.
elevate
That curve.
yeah. And I wonder, again, kind of like we talk about with the turnovers, like how sustainable is this kind of pass rush? Like, yeah, you can scheme up and blitz and stunt and line up, and that works a lot of the time, but there's going to be some offensive coordinators and some quarterbacks that are just really good at picking your blitz apart. I think Jared Goff is one of those quarterbacks we saw a little bit in week 2, where it's just like, yeah, if you blitz this guy, you got to be getting home with an unblocked rusher in 2 seconds, or else he's going to find it, because his coaching staff is smart enough and the quarterback is smart enough to know when and where to go with the football right away. And it works against Geno Smith. It's worked against Jaden Daniels a little bit to my surprise, and it'll work against Spencer Rattler and some of the lesser quarterbacks still on the schedule, but it doesn't feel like that's going to work again against Detroit, or maybe even against Green Bay and Jordan Love, like against some of the other top quarterbacks on your schedule, like every once in a while. But I also would like to see something that feels more sustainable there, of just like guys winning one-on-ones that don't require extra pass rushers coming.
I think getting Kyler Gordon up to game speed will help, because he's a tremendous blitzer that you can use at different times in the game. I thought Brisker looked really good when he blitzed today. He almost got there once, should have had him. Jaden Daniels did get out and I think run for a first down, but he was effective as a blitzer, creating pressure at least. So I think that will help as Gordon gets up to speed. Looking at some I thought Adangbo was, I don't think he's been good since first week. I mean, I think he's just kind of been up and down, not really much of anything. Andrew Billings, I'd like to see a little more in the run game from him. I feel like a lot of times you just see him kind of running around in that little area right there, and he's not doing much of anything. So there's still some things you really don't like, and there's some things that you could see working in the future for Dennis Allen in the defense.
The one thing I don't ever want to see again is on a 4th and 2, and Dominique Robinson is the guy supposed to be guarding a running back out of the backfield.
Yeah, I have that written down.
Brutal. That play was brutal. And honestly, if it's just a little bit better of a throw, it might have been a touchdown on that play. But I know it wasn't Bill back there, but man, that play was tough to see, to get the Commanders in a 4th and 2 position and have Robinson matched up against the running back.
Just to have Robinson on the field on 4th and 2, that important of a play, that Dominique Robinson, who shouldn't be on this roster, let's be real, shouldn't be on this roster, is in coverage. It was just, I mean, that's a horrible play call by Dennis Allen.
It looked like a sim pressure where they blitzed one of the inside linebackers and then dropped Dominique Robinson. So it was still a 4-man rush, and they still wanted to have 7 on the back end to try and throw something at Jaden Daniels. And I think he's just kind of covering a flat zone there, and Daniels reads it well and hits it where he needs to. And obviously Robinson does not cover it well at all. And I think that's one of those kind of calculated risk gambles from Dennis Allen, where he's saying, as long as they don't see it right away and throw it to the running back, this play should work. And of course they do the one thing that is going to work and work to their huge favor.
Well, Andy, Robinson did get picked on the play as well, which it was one of those borderline, we've seen it called in the NFL, and we've seen it not called because it's just him running backwards and he runs into the guy. So he kind of picked himself in that play. But yeah, it was just a very rough play call there by Dennis Allen, in my opinion.
Lauren, were there any other plays that stood out to you in a big negative way for the defense?
I just think it's worth noting, like, Nashawn Wright had a big face mask penalty and illegal contact penalty. And like, those plays are not, they don't go down as like, in the PFF stats for like targets and catches and yards allowed, but I can't remember how much, if illegal contact is 5 or 10 yards, but that's 20 or 25 yards worth of penalties that came in big time situations. And it's just like, those little things really hurt and takes drives that were going to end in field goals. And at least the face mask turned into a touchdown, and the illegal contact, it was right before the forced fumble play. So I guess the first one didn't lead to actual points on the board, but absolutely those kind of moments can be difference makers in this game.
I was disappointed by that 3rd and 13 that you mentioned, Joe. And it wasn't just because of the play and he picked up the first down. It was the fact that the guys that came up to make the tackle, they didn't come up with any like goal of stopping him. It looked like it was just kind of a, let's just kind of make a wall and hope he doesn't punch through. And I mean, by the time they hit him, he was already at the first down marker pretty much. So he got it easily. I mean, in that situation, you got to know as a defender, you have to come up and make a hit. You cannot come up and just kind of wrap the guy and let him fall forward. No, you have to make a hit, because that could have been a disaster for that defense.
Yeah, I mean, Tremaine Edmonds, when they showed it, it's like he's so far back and you can see him moving forward, but there's just like not the juice that he
I think it was Kevin
there.
Byard there with him too, if
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, without the fumble that happens on, I think, the next play, that's probably like the one possession we're talking about for most of the show, because it's probably the reason why the Bears lose this game is that 3rd and 13. But they get a lucky break for the first time ever, it feels like, or the first time in a couple of years, and they're able to get the W. Lauren mentioned the mistakes there from Nahshon Wright. Well, there was a lot. Some from the Bears, a lot from the Bears, I guess I should say. Also a lot from the refs. Like, we got to talk about it. We'll get into that next year on the Bears Squad Show.
Oh,
Nope, that's me, Lauren. Sorry, you're good. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. This episode is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, Jake Moody, game-winning field goal, and DeAndre Swift will give him credit too as well for just getting the Bears in the position. But for Moody to get the win there on the game-winning field goal is definitely what moved it forward for the Bears. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, guys, there's a lot of mental mistakes to get through. You mentioned the ones from Wright. Maybe your least favorite one of the game, Lauren. I mean, maybe it's let's start with the Roma Dunze touchdown that got taken off the field. Because this one to me feels like 50-50. It's refs, because I guess I don't understand the rule. Because as they were explaining it on television, I'm looking at a picture on my screen, and I'm like, I feel like they're describing him being at the line of scrimmage where his head is in front of the center's butt or in line with it. Apparently it's not. But that to me is obviously, let's blame it on the Bears there. That's the worst one. Like the Rome Odunze touchdown, which was a great throw, or a good throw, but a great catch from Rome. Probably the most frustrating one of the day.
in terms
Lauren?
of penalties,
Yeah, in terms of penalties, yeah.
And that's one where our television angle is very poor to measure that. And the guy who throws the flag is standing at the line of scrimmage, looking down the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, I'm not here to say he was right, because Lord knows I can't tell, but he does have the best angle on it of anybody in here. And they made a good point in the broadcast too, that like, usually that's a situation where they'll warn a guy after the first time. I mean, we don't know whether they did or didn't, but that was the whole thing with like Juwan Taylor was doing that in Kansas City. Not only would he move early, but he'd be lined up super far back. So I think we need more information on that call in particular. But I also knew that heading into this game, I don't remember who had sourced this, so I apologize for not giving the proper credit, but like this refereeing crew had handed out the most penalty flags of any refereeing crew in the NFL entering this week. So I knew coming into this game, there was going to be a lot of penalty flags thrown. And I didn't leave this game feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so incredibly one-sided towards the Chicago Bears. I thought generally it was ticky-tacky, and they were calling things they didn't need to call. And but I think they called it on both sides fairly well here. And I think the Bears did more penalty-worthy actions. Like they lined up offsides, they grabbed the face mask, they had the illegal formation, like whatever the thing might be, that they were doing the thing. And most of the time, it felt like it was either justified or kind of some ticky-tacky stuff going both ways.
Yeah, I mean the play with Benedict, you can't really see from and then ESPN goes on, and I think we were talking before the show, Joe, that ESPN, you're the biggest sports company. You broadcast all these different kinds of sports, and I'm seeing Fox at noon give us angles right down the line, give us all these different camera angles, and yet we see the exact same angles on every single shot from ESPN. So I just think that they do, the fans and anybody else watching a disservice when they can't show us, or they don't show us replays of this penalty or this play that was close, or what, why didn't this work? They just kind of come back, and Troy Aikman kind of broadly gives us this is why this didn't, and then it's gone. And then we move on to the next play and we miss part of the play half the time anyways. So, but yeah, I just thought the penalties were rough. I thought both on Nahshon Wright were bad. Like, I mean, the face mask, yes, the head goes down very early, but even in slow motion, it was quick. So, I mean, and if his defensive holding penalty is a penalty, then there's a flag on every single pass play, because that holding was not holding. Now, you could argue the other side too, that the big touchdown to DeAndre Swift, that play clock was at 0. I mean, it was easily there half a second. So it's a bad officiating crew.
Yeah.
You mentioned most penalties. They gave out 14 tonight.
I'm with you there. Like, I think a bad officiating crew. And another one on the other side, the Caleb Williams touchdown run where DeAndre Swift pulls the back of the guy's jersey. And I think they pointed out correctly in the broadcast that it probably didn't impede the guy's motion. But in a game like this, you would have expected these referees to throw that flag. So I think there are good examples in both directions of, like, yeah, probably got away with a couple here and there, and also probably got ticky-tacked on a few that don't need to throw. A veteran, better referee crew just says, let him play. That
right.
Face mask didn't really affect the receiver and the play that much.
The one thing I found interesting, and I saw this was, I think, a tweet sent to me or a response sent to me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. The roughing the passer on Montez Sweat clearly hits the head. I get why they called it, but it feels like it's so just like a push. Like, couldn't we do with some of these like a 5-yard, kind of like a running into the kicker type one, or running into the punter instead of roughing the punter? Like, I feel like, because some of these they call are just brutal. And I get why they called the second one on Brisker. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was going to be a penalty because he goes low. Now, where does he hit him? He hits him mid-thigh when he starts and then slides down to the knee. So, but it's the way it looks. They're always going to call that, because if they don't, the NFL is going to be all over them for not protecting quarterbacks. But it's just one of those things where the quarterbacks continue to get these calls like this. And it does feel, when that was sent to me and I read it, I was like, that does actually make some sense when you see just a little slap to the face. It wasn't like he punched him in the head as he was running by or something. It was just a little push. And we see it where some quarterbacks get it. I mean, Justin Fields still can't buy a flag. I don't know if you watched the Jets game the other day. He got absolutely dismantled and still no flag. So I don't know that he's ever gotten a roughing the passer call. But Patrick Mahomes gets sneezed on, and it's like, we're going to give you 45 yards, Chiefs. So it's interesting the way games are being called. I think officiating, if you watch Saturday throughout college football, the officiating was horrible, always different, for all teams. It's just the officiating right now is bad in kind of all sports. And it's because we have so many replays and everything. We see everything.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned earlier, Adam, that I wanted to point out too with the offense, that while it didn't hurt them in this game necessarily, and it felt like there was it felt like almost every play, specifically in the second half, it's like you're looking at the clock. And it's like 3, 2, guys are still moving. It just, like, the operation of the offense, that feels like that took a step backwards in this game a little bit, just because, like, it feels much more what we saw in week 1, and the reports we were getting out of training camp were getting guys into the right position. It felt very, discombobulated throughout this entire game. That was one thing that stood out to me also, where it's like you talk about the mental mistakes that were happening from the Bears in this one. It didn't really lead to anything, but I think it's something that's really important to kind of keep an eye on going forward.
Well, and even some of those little, like, miscommunication things when Zacchaeus is running a slant and he stops because it's zone coverage, and then Caleb throws it in front a little bit, or vice versa. He keeps running and Caleb throws it behind him a little bit because he thought he was going to stop. Like, those kind of things you kind of hoped would be totally cleaned up by now, and I guess it has felt like it has generally gotten better in previous games, and this game felt like kind of a slight step back, and maybe that's just the natural progression of like, yeah, it's not incremental like every game it gets 5% better, but it's a jump forward and then a step back and then a couple jumps forward and then a couple steps back, and I think that's how it's going to kind of go for a little while yet this season.
And to me, it was not so much like guys messing up where they're supposed to be or anything. It just felt like the play calls were coming in late. A lot of times we saw Caleb in the huddle with 15 left, and then they got a rush, and then he's trying to put a guy in motion, and they have to run through and then snap the ball. So I felt like that, like the 2-point play. I despised that 2-point play. I mean, I know my guy was open and probably should have thrown it, but the way it looked when they showed that replay and Troy Aikman was talking about it, that he clearly wasn't the first option because he was looking at, I think it was Komet and maybe it was Burden. But it was just one of those things where you had to snap, you had to rush up to the line, you had to snap it with basically 1/0 on the play clock. And you do wish those things were cleaned up. And I wish you had a better play than just kind of throwing out to a rookie running back in the flat, hoping you spent the 10th pick on Colson Loveland. Put him in the damn game. It's a 2-point play. Like, that's what he's good at. That's what he was great at Michigan, is not only stretching the field, but in the red zone. You have Cole Kmet, who was in the game. Both those guys should be in there, not Luther Burden and Monangai. Like, so that was another thing I didn't like to see either.
You mentioned snaps there. Was it a 2-minute warning, or was the end of the quarter when the botched snap happened? Why did they snap that? Like the one that bounces off Caleb Williams' hands again. It's like, I think it was the end of the quarter. Like, you could have just waited it out. Like what's the rush there? It just didn't make any sense. Like, that to me feels like a mental mistake on, I don't know if it's Caleb or maybe it's on, it's on Dahlman, because I don't like the fact that 2 weeks in a row we've also seen a ball rocket past Caleb Williams off of his hands. Like, that to me is something like that has to get cleaned up too. It didn't really bite the Bears in this game, but that's something that also stood out in a very negative way from this game.
I mean, that drive ended in the blocked field goal, and you wonder.
That's right. It did.
Yep.
That's right.
It had been a little bit closer, or if they had, certainly if they scored a touchdown, it would have been different. But maybe a closer field goal is not as flat of an angle off his foot, and it gets over the line. I mean, they still won the game on a field goal, so like, doesn't cost them in any measurable way down the line. But yes, I agree. That's another one of those areas of like, what we're seeing improvement in the running game and some of the other big weaknesses, and yet some of these more simple things that seem easier to fix have been the harder ones to really kind of put away.
Another mistake, as long as we're talking about these mistakes, DJ Moore on that first play where they get it to Loveland, he picks up 11, 12 yards, but DJ Moore's lined up off sides. Like, and of course I went back and I watched it to see if ESPN had it. No, for some reason they were showing us Drew Dahlman's big helmet. Like, and so you couldn't see if Moore went out there and pointed to the ref or anything. So I guess that's something for all 22. But if he didn't, I mean, that's all you got to do is just give a thumbs up to the ref as you walk up to the line. He'll tell you if you need to back up or if you're good. And clearly wasn't. And I mean, even that, but it's the angle. He looked onside because of the black line that they put on there, but that's not an exact angle. So that was frustrating that you put yourself going backwards. And then that's when Zacchaeus had that drop right after. And it's just like, damn, like you're killing yourself too many times. And you have to feel lucky coming out of this game with this win.
Yeah, that's
go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, that's like the biggest picture takeaway for me is you do got to feel lucky coming out of this win. And the fact that you were able to overcome all of those things is the surest sign of progress for this team. This is a game that Matt Eberflus Bears absolutely lose.
Yeah, the other thing it's not a question. They might lose this game by 3 touchdowns if Matt Eberflus is the coach of this team.
Yeah, they're never in it.
The other part of this, the only other thing from this game that stood out to me and something of maybe Luke McCaffrey's just awesome at kick returns, but man, he was at the 40-yard line. It felt like every single time he touched the ball. Like, that is one thing where if you got this defense that is okay, it's up and down. You have to help give them better field position. That was one of the biggest negatives, I think, from this game was just the Washington Commanders were having way too much success on kickoff returns. So that's also needs to be addressed, I think, going into next week, because it's so different than watching like Duvernay get the ball, where it's that thing's barely getting to the 30, and Luke McCaffrey's getting to like nearly the 45 every single time he touches it.
And that's felt like a long running trend this season. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to say every week, but maybe every week it feels like kickoffs, especially like punts seem to be fine, but they have not perfected the new kickoff coverage for them. And really the kickoff returns, they haven't done a ton with either.
I mean, that's why
Yeah.
they almost lost the Raiders game because of a great kickoff return.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yep.
just it seems to be it hasn't bit the Bears yet, barely. But it has not been pretty in that department. I know we don't focus on special teams a lot when we do these shows, but it's just so glaring that they have a problem in this new kickoff with whatever's going on.
Well, and it's just to see teams doing this new where you kind of kick it and it's bouncing, or it's, kind of at least shooting off the ground towards, and they got to at least move to get the ball. Whereas the Bears are still just popping it up and they're letting them catch it and get a running start. And when you're catching the ball at the 5 and you're fast, you could be at the 20, 25 before you're even getting to these guys. So it's just, it's frustrating to watch. And I think the only one they didn't get past the 35 was the penalty one, where the guy came back and cracked somebody, and he didn't even need to. Yeah, it was Roschon. He didn't even need to do it. It was still gonna, like, McCaffrey was passed. So it's just bad coverage. Coverage has to be better moving forward.
That was Roschon's biggest contribution this season, man. He's on fire.
When I saw that, my first reaction
run
was,
for 6 yards and a penalty against him. Woo, slow down, Roschon.
I'm glad he's wearing that Guardian cap when he got hit, because I was like, dude, that was a violent hit that Roschon took. All right, we'll take our last break here. When we get back, let's talk more about Caleb Williams, what we saw in this game again, just our overall feelings about the Bears as they are above 500 for the first time since last season. We'll get to that next year on the Bears Squad Show.
The Bears Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And with the NFL season well underway, FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down just $5, and if it hits, not only will you unlock the winnings from your $5 bet, but you'll also get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So say you want to bet on this Bears Saints game next week. Maybe you see the Bears continuing their winning streak. You hit that $5 bet on that game or any other game, any other prop bet, any other sport, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets added on top of your winnings. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
So apparently DeAndre Swift, he was the guest of Scott Van Pelt today on the postgame show. Said he talked to Jake Moody for the first time ever today on the sidelines. So welcome to the team, Jake Moody. Ben Johnson said after the game too, he thinks a change of scenery was good for him. I don't think the Bears have a kicker competition on their hands necessarily, but I'm glad they grabbed Moody when they did, when Kairos was struggling a little bit earlier in the season. Like that's a savvy move that Poles made that paid off in a big way for them today, Lauren.
Do you want to the other big breaking news I'm just seeing on Twitter, according to Herb Howard from the Big Media, DJ Moore left the stadium in an ambulance following the conclusion of the game. He was accompanied by wide receiver coach Antoine Randall L.
That's not good.
I've not seen that anywhere else, but Herb's a credentialed reporter. I mean, I assume, he's got good information there, but because DJ Moore had kind of come in and out of the game with the back thing, right? I mean, I guess I didn't pay super close attention to see like how much he was out there on that final drive, but it would seem drastic to go from playing out there a little banged up to let's take an ambulance to the hospital. I mean, I suppose it could be like he's got to get transported to the hospital, so you might as well take him an ambulance because there's one there. Like there's different levels of ambulance in the hospital, but the fact that the wide receivers coach goes with him also is a secondary red flag there.
I mean, he was banged up in this game. I think it was after the big Swift run where he had a good block. He was limping pretty poorly in this one. I mean, like DJ took a beating in this game. You could tell. I mean, he went to the tent early for his back. They said on the Southern Reporter said like when he came out of the tent that he was holding his back, still kind of wincing in pain. So I think that just even like regardless, it just adds to the kind of game that he had today. Like being involved, actively catching the ball early, but then blocking the way he was. I think DJ also, like, again, deserves a lot of credit for the Bears getting the victory today.
Yeah, he also took that hit to the knee, which
Yep.
took him out for a little bit. He on that long touchdown to DeAndre Swift, as Swift's running back to the sideline, you can see he can like barely get off the field. DJ Moore, that is. And then at one point, and again, I don't know when all this stuff is happening because there's so much going on in that game tonight. He was just on the sidelines, just bent down, just kneeling down, where he just looked like he was beat up. So hopefully everything's fine with him, and we'll get obviously more info as that comes along. But yeah, it's something you don't want to see because he is a weapon that they can use in the pass game and in the run game. And I know he only have one carry today, maybe two, but he's an option that you can throw back there and use. So hopefully he's all good.
I really like the play design on that one run he had, the inside handoff there to the goal line. Another one for chalk that up for a W for Ben Johnson. Really like the creativity that we saw in that one.
And I believe all three of his catches came in the first quarter. They all came on the same drive, actually.
Yeah.
In the same drive in the end of the first quarter. And then he did not catch the ball another time all game. I think he got a handoff after that at the start of the second quarter. And I'm just running through briefly to see anywhere else in the game where he might have touched the ball. But he did get another handoff in the third quarter. I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's the one where he motioned to the backfield. And then they just, on a little shotgun pistol formation, handed it off, and he picked up, I think, about 6 yards or so.
Very clearly affected by the injury, and the role declined significantly as the game went on.
What do you guys make of Caleb Williams' performance just overall in this game? If you want to, grade it out, or just what you see from him, the good, the bad, the ugly. Lauren?
Yeah, it feels like what probably should be categorized as a bad game, but drove them down to win at the end of the fourth quarter, so you can't really call it a bad game. Like, absolutely did what he needed to do to win the game, and that's all that matters, but should have thrown at least 2 interceptions that hit defenders in the hands. Like, those are PFF, turnover-worthy throws that are interceptable passes that probably should have been intercepted. Plus, throws it way short to Rome Odunze early in the game when he's wide open on a deep shot, cost them a touchdown. For some reason in the first half, they threw that deep bomb into double coverage to Rome Odunze for no reason, just chucked it up super deep. Like, there were enough of those like missed throws that I'm like, Caleb's not sharp tonight, but got away with a few things and then came up clutch when needed the most. So like, I don't really know how to put a letter grade on that, because like quarters 1 through 3 would maybe be C minus D, and then quarter 4, and especially that last drive, is B plus. So I don't know exactly where that leaves me.
Adam?
Yeah, I think he was fine. He was okay. I mean, I thought, he didn't use his legs much tonight, which I thought was weird because he had some opportunities to run for some yardage. That the one he pulled up and tried to fire the ball to, I think it was Zacchaeus on the sideline. Yeah, and way over his head when he probably could have picked up 6-7 yards easily. And then, but he did have the one where he ran for 4 yards and got the first down on third down. But the deep throw, and this is something that kind of has bothered me since they drafted him, and that's Rome Odunze, the deep ball down to the goal line. Like, at some point, if Rome is going to be this top 10 pick, this great wide receiver, he has to start winning 50-50 balls at some point. I know he's double covered, but if he doesn't make such a weird attempt at the ball and he can just jump up, I think he catches that ball. So at some point he has to help Caleb Williams with those throws and make those catches. That would have been a touchdown. He makes that. And then if the Theo Benedict, if he was offsides, onside, whatever, if that touchdown counts, I mean, this is a much different game. The one throw, and then I think coupled was just the design plays, the play that he threw the ball down to DJ down the sideline later in the game. So that was a target later in the game, but it was just a low percentage throw that felt like, I mean, that was the play that was called and he threw it right away. So that, Ben Johnson called that. There's some stuff I like, some stuff I don't like, but I thought for the most part, there was only 1, maybe 2 throws that I was like, come on, Caleb, that's bad. And that's a win for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to Troy Aikman, he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. My gosh, Troy Aikman does not like Caleb Williams. Even the one big throw he had to Burden, like he was like, it was a late throw. I'm like, what are you talking about? It was Perfectly fine. Like everything was fine about this play. Yeah, the other one that stood out to me was after the rushing touchdown, the next drive, there was one where Rome throws its hands up in the air and Caleb decides to run instead. And that one I would be curious to hear what Ben Johnson would say about that play because it almost looks like a designed run, but Rome just broke free at the same time. If it's not a designed run, Caleb missed a wide open Rome Odunze.
But see, that's the one I was talking about where it's third down. You pick up the first down. I don't care. You live to fight another day and you continue that drive because if he misses it, if Rome drops it, whatever it is, now you're punting or trying a long field. I don't know exactly where they were, but you pick up the third down and that's where people, it's so hit and miss with Caleb where some people are like,
oh, you muted yourself. Oh, you're gone. Lauren, we'll let you talk then.
The other thing I was not happy about with Caleb Williams' performance that again doesn't cost him in a game like this was just he did 2 different sacks in this game that he just absolutely should not have taken. Where he's holding on to the ball too long, he's escaping. Like they were rookie year Caleb Williams sacks that he had seemed to have gotten out of his system through the first 4 games, and it felt like a little bit of a regression there. And I'm not necessarily concerned that it's going to become a big problem again, but it was just like those are both plays where it's like, oh come on, I know you know better than that now, and you still took both of them. And it's like just throw the ball away there. It's okay.
Yeah, the only other play that really stood out for me that I didn't from just like let's stay healthy here was when he got hit by Luvu on the sideline there, got rocked. Like just get out of bounds, man.
Throw it away.
But no. See, sorry, I'm not telling you you're wrong, but you're wrong. He's got to stay in bounds there because it forced Washington to take their final timeout.
You're right.
And then they were able to punt. So yes, don't take the hit, get down.
Yes.
But there was also that play, and if you go back and watch it, he's trying to throw the ball, but he can never get in a position to throw because he's being chased. Because DeAndre Swift broke open. He's open, and that's a play we've seen Caleb make multiple times throughout his 2 years. And if he can get a throw off, which he never could because of the way the pass rusher was coming at him, he's trying to make a play. I never want to coach that out of Caleb Williams because if you coach that out of him, just get rid of him now because then he doesn't become the player you hope he becomes. And again, it was smart because it forced Washington to use a timeout that they could have had. And then who knows, yes, Torrey Taylor punted it down to the 9 or whatever it was, but they didn't have any timeouts. If they don't, and it goes a bad punt, now maybe they get a field goal and it's different ending to the game.
Yeah. And to your point, like at the very end of the game there, he did that. He got out of the pocket and he slid and it forced Washington to use, I think that final timeout that they had. So like we saw like almost like the learning happening in front of us, but like that was Lulu got him good. That was a hard, clean, good football hit that we saw in Caleb Williams. I don't want to see a lot of those because we saw a couple times where Caleb's like shoulder pads are like up in his neck, and I'm like, oh, he took a little bit of a beating in this game. But I think it's a great point, Lauren. Like he just took some sacks in this game, and you're like, like that's not what he's been doing so far this year.
Especially when Jaden Daniels took a couple hits and he was limping a little bit after one of them, and you're like, uh-oh. And then it's like, okay, put our quarterback in bubble wrap then. Like we're not playing this game right now.
Yeah, I don't need Tyson Bagent. No Tyson Bagent this season. That's all I can ask for.
And one thing I would like to see when Brisker intercepted that ball and he's returning it, and you have Jaden Daniels coming to make the tackle, don't jump over him.
I think he was trying to kill him.
You lower your shoulder and you rock him. You hit him hard. I don't care who the quarterback is. When a quarterback's coming to hit you and you don't have just an open lane to a touchdown, you hit that quarterback as hard as you can, even with the ball. And that I was like, come on, Brisker. Like, no, I know you're not out to hurt people, but you make him feel that interception even more than, turning the ball over.
Well, it would have been a loss last year. It was a loss last year, but this year the Bears get redemption. They take down the Commanders, winning 25-24, moving to 3-2 with the New Orleans Saints next on their schedule. Lauren, myself, and Taylor Dahl will be back with you guys on Thursday for another edition, probably during the day of the Bears Squad Show. And then this group will be back with you guys next Sunday after the Saints game. So we will talk to you then. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you check out Lauren's podcast Monday through Friday right here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button here and wherever you get your podcasts. We will talk to you later in the week. Peace.